Good afternoon. Thanks so much to everyone for joining us today. I'm Tracy Sabetta, State Coordinator for Moms Clean Air Force in Ohio. We are a community of 1.5 million parents and grandparents from across the country who've come together to advocate for clean air and climate change action to protect our children's health. Since we began working in Ohio in 2011, we've grown to 89,000 members and a strong presence in local, state, and federal policy work. Today, we are here with our event co-hosts, Green Energy Ohio and the Ohio Public Health Association, to talk about the importance of air quality monitoring. Thanks so much to both of our partners for their help in making this event a reality. At the end of 2022, 132 projects around the country were notified that they will receive funding from the US EPA through the American Rescue Plan dollars to conduct ambient air monitoring of pollutants with environmental and health outcome disparities stemming from pollution and the COVID-19 pandemic. We're pleased to announce that 4 projects across Ohio were awarded funding. This afternoon, we will hear from representatives of the 4 projects, each sharing information about their upcoming work, what data they will focus on collecting, and how the results will be used to reduce air pollution moving forward. There will also be an opportunity for questions following the presentations, so please put all questions in the chat throughout the event, and we will ask them of our speakers at the end. Joining us today is Brandy Whetstone, Sustainability Officer and Lead Green Associate with the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, Christina Yoka, Chief of Air Pollution Outreach for the Cleveland Department of Public Health, Jada Edwards, Citizen Science Manager with Groundwork Ohio River Valley, and Terry Genyas, Director of Air Pollution Control for Canton City Public Health Department. But before we get started today, we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge the recent train derailment in East Palestine and the release of multiple toxic air pollutants into a community where people live, work, and play. Moms Clean Air Force and many of our partner organizations continue working with state and federal EPA and public health officials to ensure that the necessary resources are provided to the communities affected by this tragic event for continued testing and cleanup. But that being said, our speakers today and the work they are doing is not related to the incident in East Palestine. Our presentations will not include information on the train derailment, and our speakers will not take questions about the incident during Q&A. It is critical that information provided about this disaster be accurate and come from sources who are working directly in the area, and that's not the focus of the work being discussed today. We appreciate your understanding and respect for our speakers. So now I will turn it over to our first speaker, Brandy Whetstone from the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, to kick us off. Brandy?
Thank you, Tracy. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to kick off my presentation. All right, if you can let me know that you can see those slides, I'll kick us off.
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited to join this group of people here to learn more about the projects across the state of Ohio. My name's Brandy Whetstone. I'm the Sustainability Officer with the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, or MORPC. MORPC is Central Ohio's Regional Council of Local Governments. In my role, I oversee sustainability programming with a team focused on air quality, energy and climate, and water resources planning. We're a membership organization of more than 80 local governments and regional organizations, and we cover a 15-county service area, as you can see there in the map. So diverse membership across small towns to larger cities and counties. And then we have a variety of programs and initiatives that you can see on the screen there related to transportation planning, data and mapping, residential services, and much more. But to get to the topic today, I want to talk about MORPC's air quality program and also the new project that we're going to be kicking off thanks to funding from US EPA. So first, just to preface this, we know Central Ohio is growing quickly, and we're on track to be a region of at least 3 million people by 2050. So with that growth and our focus on air quality today, we want to make sure that we can be proactive in maintaining clean air for a growing region and support a high quality of life for our residents. One way we do this is through our regional air quality initiatives here in Central Ohio, and it provides the foundation for the work that we're doing around air quality monitoring at the neighborhood level. we issue 7-day air quality forecasts, kind of like weather forecasts, and we use the air quality index on the screen to communicate how clean or polluted the air is and the associated health effects. And then if pollution levels, meaning ozone and particulate matter, or PM 2.5, when they reach levels that are unhealthy for sensitive groups of people, we issue an air quality alert. There are similar programs across the state of Ohio as well. The region is in attainment for ozone and particulate matter, which is good news, and we continue to see long-term improvement over the past 30 years. Because ozone and PM 2.5 are regulated by the Clean Air Act, there's health-based criteria tied to those pollutants, and it's something that we monitor for public health reasons in the region. Moving on, in 2021, MORPC teamed up with Franklin County Public Health with support of the American Geophysical Union's Thriving Earth Exchange to develop a low-cost air monitoring network across Franklin County, Ohio, to measure particulate matter pollution. This was the first time that we took on a project like this. We used the purple air sensor that you see on the slide, and there's a real-time map reporting PM 2.5 levels at purpleair.com. The main goal was to deploy these sensors to evaluate neighborhood scale air quality, and also where there are gaps in our understanding about hyperlocal air pollution. And to determine if Central Ohio is meeting federal standards for air pollution, Ohio EPA does maintain a network of monitoring stations shown on the map to the right. These are the continuous PM 2.5 monitors here in Franklin County. And they use highly precise instruments to do that. But as you can see, there are only 2 monitoring sites with the real-time data. And so this leaves the region with some gaps in data and in our understanding of localized and neighborhood-specific air quality. And that was the basis for forming this air quality monitoring network to determine what air quality looked like across different neighborhoods, if some communities are experiencing higher levels of air pollution than others, and to identify where those inequities might exist so that we can target some solutions. And with the monitor placement, we were very thoughtful about looking at different sociodemographic and health data, including poverty rates, percent minority population, children under 5, and people over 65, as well as asthma and COVID rates. And prior to putting those monitors out in the community, we also co-located them with Ohio EPA monitors to validate the data. And with this project, we'll be wrapping up at the end of June and putting out a report. Just to highlight, we're concerned about particle pollution for many reasons. This chart is one example showing the disparity among those living with asthma in Franklin County. You can see both adults and children living below the federal poverty level have a higher percentage of asthma than the total population and the population living above the federal poverty level in Franklin County. So with this US EPA grant award, we're very excited about this. I know others are as well. We're building on our existing air monitoring project experience. MORPC and Franklin County Public Health partnered up again with this proposal. We're going to be leveraging and expanding the scope of our current Purple Air Neighborhood project with a big focus on areas that are most vulnerable to health impacts of the pollution. Air quality monitoring and modeling will be used to identify and understand the distribution and the causes of particulate matter pollution. And that way we can inform programs, solutions, or policies to help alleviate any disproportionate impacts that we find through this process. So we're excited to get this work off the ground with our partners. Just to overview those very high level key components of our project. This will include a lot of community engagement. We'll be forming a community advisory board to bring diverse stakeholders together. We'll also be creating an engagement plan, and then we'll be doing continuous outreach through a lot of different communications platforms and in-person events and presentations. And then the technical work, this list isn't exhaustive by any means, but examples include validating the monitor performance prior to placing them in the community, looking at monitor siting and the ongoing maintenance that comes along with that. And it's something that we've learned a lot about in our current project. And then the data collection and analysis piece, among others. And then we'll have a final report with some takeaways, hopefully some good recommendations, and we'll be gathering input from the community and from our community advisory board on this as well. So I just want to recognize our stellar project team. We couldn't do this alone. We have our partners from Franklin County Public Health here, Layla Abraham and Jenny McAdams. And then on my team at MORPC is Prince Kwarteng Crooklyn. He's our Air Quality and Sustainability Program Specialist here at MORPC. So really excited to work with them and really build and expand the impacts of the work that we are doing together in Central Ohio. And so with that, I will conclude. I'm happy to take questions after the other presentations, but here's my email if you'd like to reach out for any further information. So thank you very much for having me.
Great. Thanks so much, Brandy. Now we're going to hear from Christina Yoka, Chief of Air Pollution Outreach for the Cleveland Department of Public Health. And I will just remind you one more time, if you have questions during the presentation, please put them in the chat. Christina?
Hi, good. It's afternoon now, so good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank Moms Clean Air Force as well as Green Energy Ohio for coordinating today's discussion. I'm excited to be here along with my colleagues in the other organizations that are receiving this funding and being able to hear about their projects as well as share the work that we're doing. So if you give me just 1 second here, I will go ahead and share my screen. And take it away in just a minute here. Sorry, folks, 1 second. All right, I think I'm set up now. Is my presentation on?
No, we're not able to see it.
Okay. One more moment here. Sorry, guys.
No problem. Do you want us to move forward and then come back to you, or do you think you're close?
I'm almost there.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. All right. And from there, from beginning. All right. Is that up? Okay. Sorry about that. Appreciate your patience. I'll be fast. So yeah, my name is Christina Yoka, and I am the Chief of Air Pollution Outreach with the Cleveland Department of Public Health Division of Air Quality. My specific role here at the agency is anything that has to do with community engagement, air quality, and public health. Just a quick note that there are some potential areas that might change throughout the project. We are still waiting on some final paperwork from EPA to get the project moving. So although I don't expect there to be any major changes in the scope of our project, there is the possibility that that will occur at a later time. The Cleveland Division of Air Quality is the delegated local air agency serving Cuyahoga County. So what that means is that we are responsible for enforcing all the rules of the Clean Air Act through Cuyahoga County and operating an ambient air monitoring network. We do this through our 4 sections. We have a monitoring team that operates 13 ambient air monitoring sites throughout Cuyahoga County. Our enforcement team, so we respond to residential complaints, inspect facilities, and ensure that they're meeting all the rules and regulations. We prepare permits for facilities that require air permitting actions. And then we also have an air quality outreach team that is responsible for conducting community engagement and outreach activities.
Christina, I hate to interrupt you, but your slides are showing up very small. They're not in presentation mode.
Okay. Let me 1 second here then. Okay. From beginning. Is it still showing up very small?
It is. Yeah, we're still seeing your note pages.
And it's showing the note pages. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me 1 second here. Sorry about that. We have 2 monitors, which are, so it's just showing up on the wrong screen. All right. Okay, did that change it at all?
It did. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for bringing that up. Okay. So our project is the Community Leveraged Expanded Air Network in Cleveland, or the Clean and Clean project. What we're hoping to do is to expand Cleveland's air monitoring network into communities that have been historically redlined. Communities that have been historically redlined within Cuyahoga County are still presenting with poorer health outcomes, and that includes pediatric asthma, diabetes, and many other health conditions. These communities are also still experiencing pretty much any level of social vulnerability concerns that you would see. So that will be the focus of our area. We will be focusing on 2 different pollutants. We're going to look at ozone as well as particulate matter. Through the Clean and Clean project, we are going to deploy low-cost air quality sensors, use a mobile air monitoring unit, establish a resident advisory committee, collect resident narratives, host public forums, and complete medical provider surveys. And I'll go into details about what each one of these activities entail. So first, the communities that we're going to be focusing on, they have been locally referred to as the Cleveland Crescent. So in these areas, any type of social vulnerability map you would pull up, any type of health condition map you would pull up, these are the communities that form a C from the kind of northeast part of Cuyahoga County down through central and then back down to southeast. There are approximately 48% of Cleveland residents that are included within these neighborhoods. The actual specific site of where our monitoring network is going to be informed and designed through community feedback. So just to kind of give a visual of the areas that we're referring to, the maps on this page show are pulled from the Environmental Justice Screening Tool, which is an EPA tool that you can pull up various environmental justice indices and map it out. So if you take a look at these 2 maps, you can see the dark red that forms a C, and it has slightly less warm colors along the perimeter. The map on the left, that is environmental justice overlaid with pediatric asthma. So the areas that are in red, they're in the 95th to 100th percentile of modeled pediatric asthma diagnosis rates. So it will be within this region that we will be focusing our work on. We'll be utilizing both low-cost sensors and a mobile air monitoring unit. The mobile air monitoring unit will be housed within a trailer that is pulled by a vehicle, and it will include a particulate matter monitor as well as an ozone analyzer. The particulate matter monitor as well as the ozone analyzer, they're the same equipment that we use at our federal monitoring sites. So it is the same EPA level equipment. The intention behind the trailer is that will be deployed to areas that we see high levels of air pollution, we see concerns in the community, and it will stay there for about a year throughout the grant period. After the grant period is over, then we'll continue to have the mobile monitoring unit that we can deploy to areas of concern within the city of Cleveland. The other thing about the mobile monitoring unit is that even though initially it'll just have particulate matter and ozone, as well as meteorological information, at a later time, we can add additional monitors or analyzers and be able to expand the type of pollutants that we are looking at. I'm going to differentiate that between the sensors. So we will also be using low-cost air quality sensors throughout the Cleveland Crescent. We are currently planning on purchasing 30 of these sensors that will monitor for PM 2.5 and PM 10, and they're going to use long-range wide area network, low WAN to transmit data, and they should also be battery operated. When we had worked on previous air sensor deployment projects, we had ran into some problems with accessing power as well as accessing Wi-Fi. And so we wanted to explore a different solution for this project that we wouldn't be dependent on Wi-Fi or having a hard power supply. The sensors also, although they are good, the purpose in having these along with the mobile monitoring unit is that there is a difference in accuracy in data that you collect from a sensor versus a monitor. So this helps us to check our data. The type of community outreach that we will have is going to be comprised of multiple ways. First, we are going to have a resident advisory committee established. So there will be 6 residents total that we will have an opportunity to work with us on this project in this capacity. And this will be through an application process. And these residents will help inform throughout the entirety of the project. And they will also receive a stipend for their efforts. We will also collect 17 resident narratives that will be mapped. We'll be utilizing a process called spatial video geonarratives to conduct interviews in the community where the resident will be in a vehicle with us. We will interview them, and there will be cameras mounted to the outside of the vehicle as well as audio. And as we're conducting the interview, anything that we hear from the resident will then be visually mapped so that we can look for consistencies among resident concerns. And the type of thing that we might be looking for in this is every time I go to this part of the community, I have an asthma attack. So that's the type of data that we're looking for. And then we can take away and have that lived experience and mapped it out. We'll also be hosting 9 public forums that are in person per year and 3 virtual sessions. The public forums will be within the Cleveland Crescent, but they will rotate between different specific sites within the Cleveland Crescent. Some of the outcomes that we're hoping to achieve, we'll be able to map out air pollution hotspots. So where does the data tell us that there are higher levels or elevated levels of particulate matter? This will also help us with our spatial coverage. So we know currently how our spatial level for what we can cover with our monitoring network. And this will kind of help us identify more of that community and get into neighborhoods that don't currently have monitoring. The data will be uploaded, and there will be an air quality dashboard developed so that you can see where the 30 sensors are along with our ambient monitoring network. We're hoping to improve asthma care in high-risk neighborhoods. So we will be working with medical providers to conduct surveys that address what are some of the barriers to asthma treatment that residents may be experiencing. The community forums will also be, we are trying to make them as accessible as we can and reduce some of the barriers that make it difficult for people to participate. So this would be, we'll be providing childcare, we will have interpreters available, and just whatever we can to reduce barriers to public participation. And then, of course, documenting how all of this works and completing the final report. So there is my contact information, and when we get to questions, I'm happy to answer any additional questions. And thank you for bearing with me during my technical challenges.
Thank you, Christina. We all have technical challenges from time to time, so don't you worry about it at all. Just as a reminder, if you have questions as you're hearing the presentations, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat box, and we will address them at the end of the remarks. And we are now going to turn to Jada Edwards, who is Citizen Science Manager for Groundwork, Ohio River Valley. Jada.
Thank you, Tracy. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me get my slides pulled up. Are you able to see my slides? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so my name is Jada Edwards, and I'm the Citizen Science Program Director at Groundwork, Ohio River Valley. A little bit on Groundwork, Ohio River Valley, we like to say that we are where justice and the environment meet. Groundwork is an organization that's dedicated to the equitable restoration of the natural and built environment in the greater Cincinnati area, and we do this through community partnerships. So we're working in urban environments, and our goal is to reach people who are left behind by the environmental movement. And Groundwork is part of a network of 25 different trusts nationally. So one of our programs is our Climate Safe Neighborhoods Initiative. And through this initiative, we explore and communicate the relationship between the climate crisis and institutionalized racism. We support residents to self-advocate for their communities. And through this self-advocation, we are developing and implementing climate mitigation measures. And our overarching goal is to be able to impact policy in the city of Cincinnati. So we started off having our Climate Safe Neighborhoods form climate advisory groups, and this started in the neighborhood of Lower Price Hill. The residents there created their own climate resilience plan, which you can see pictured on the left. So residents were able to have their voices heard and talk about what the changes that they wanted to see in their own community. So a lot of residents proposed having more street trees, community cooling centers, more green spaces, and a green roof. Lower Price Hill has one of the lowest tree canopy coverages in the city of Cincinnati, and so that makes it really hot there. So through this initiative, we were actually able in November to get out and plant 70 street trees in Lower Price Hill. Another one of our programs is our Youth Green Workforce, which is our green team, and it's the nation's largest youth green workforce program, and it's centered on environmental justice and equity. So just beyond being outside and outdoors recreationally, our youth also get to see representation in the environmental field. And we have about 150 youth employees per year. They're doing things like urban agriculture, ecological restoration, trail building and maintenance, and they also get to do professional development activities where they learn about green infrastructure, and they do financial aid. They get to have certifications such as first aid and much more. So these programs that I just mentioned are connected into our air quality program, where we will have both residents and youth doing monitoring. So one of our past projects was focused in Lower Price Hill, and we used purple air monitors to do neighborhood monitoring. So Lower Price Hill is very industrial. They have about 20 different industries there. So half of the neighborhood is highly industrial and the other half is residential. We split the neighborhood up into 12 different quadrants, and we had monitors placed in each quadrant, which you can see in the picture on the left, and the air quality was very bad that day. The monitors were red. So in addition to the neighborhood monitoring, we also did monitoring with residents. We had 10 residents participate. They had 2 purple airs. One was inside of their home and one was outside of their home. And then they also had an air beam monitor that they carried with them for a full week. And the residents were fully compensated for their time in participating in the program. And starting next month, we'll also be doing monitoring in South Fairmount as well as more in Lower Price Hill. And in addition to resident monitoring, we'll also have our Green Team Youth program doing monitoring with us as well. So through our EPA grant that we just received, we're going to be doing project expansion. So our past neighborhoods where we hosted climate advisory groups consist of the Beekman Corridor, which is 5 neighborhoods: South Fairmount, North Fairmount, South Cumminsville, Millvale, and English Woods, as well as Bond Hill and Roselawn. So all of those neighborhoods that we worked with before are going to be able to have air quality monitors up in their neighborhoods, and residents will be able to monitor as well. And then we'll be moving into 2 additional neighborhoods of Avondale and Norwood, where these residents will get to be able to go through the climate advisory group process where they form their own resilience plans for their specific neighborhoods. And then in addition to that, they'll also get to participate in air quality monitoring. So for our project, we are going to be doing community-driven monitoring, which will compile neighborhood and individual level air toxin exposure rates, and we'll use this data to advocate for mitigation efforts. We'll be training 320 youth employees as well as 50 residents throughout the neighborhoods that I just discussed on air quality monitoring techniques and air pollution health education. So these youth and residents will go through a series of trainings where they learn about air hazards in their neighborhoods. They'll learn about the monitoring that's currently taking place in Cincinnati, and then they'll also learn how to use the monitors. And then the data that we collect will be used to pursue funding for air quality mitigation efforts and other green infrastructure projects that are desired by residents. So everything is resident-led. And some of our goals include the establishment of programs that will assist in residential air pollution mitigation, including residents in the data collection process so that the residents are paid for their time and then the youth will be paid for participating as well. We'll have 12 full months of data evaluation, evaluating the rates of exposure in residential areas, and we'll compile all of that and make it publicly available for an online dashboard. And then our goal is to have our data and monitoring efforts be adopted by the City of Cincinnati government as part of our Green Cincinnati plan, helping to dictate policy so that residents are being able to see the change that they want to see in their communities in policy in the City of Cincinnati. So these two maps here just talk about tree canopy coverage and impervious surfaces, as well as temperature anomalies and how they're connected. So if you see in the City of Cincinnati where it's more green, we have higher tree canopy coverage, and then connected to the map on the left, it's cooler. And then the neighborhoods where you see more of the gray and the black on the tree canopy coverage map, it's more impervious surface, there's not a lot of trees, so it's hotter. And that connects to the communities that we're working in, because these communities are located west of the industrial Mill Creek, as well as I-75. So there's a lot of traffic in these neighborhoods. They have very low tree canopy coverage, and there's high industry. For example, in Norwood and Roselawn, as well as different neighborhoods in the Beekman corridor, they have Superfund sites, brownfields, and then in Roselawn specifically, they have a hazardous waste treatment and disposal site. So a lot of things that are happening because of redlining in the City of Cincinnati. And the pollutants that we'll be testing for are PM 2.5 and PM 10. That's what the residents and Green Team youth will be testing for with their air quality monitors. And then we also plan to have stationary monitors that will also test for PM 2.5 and PM 10, but also carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and sulfur dioxide. So our stationary monitor is the AQ mesh, and that'll sit stationary in all of the neighborhoods. So all 5 neighborhoods of the Beekman corridor, Bond Hill, Roselawn, Avondale, and Norwood. And then for resident and youth use, we'll be using AirBeam 3 monitor, which you can clip onto your clothing and carry it with you. And then we'll also have the TemTop 2000 and the TemTop M10i. And that concludes what we're doing for our project. Thank you, and my contact information can be found here.
Thank you so much, Jada. What a fascinating project, and love to see, the data turned into hopefully policy at the municipal level. That's really great. Finally, we're going to hear from Terry Genius, Director of Air Pollution Control for Canton City Public Health Department. Terry?
Hello, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Is everything up? All right, great. Well, like Tracy said, I am Terry Genius, and I have been the Air Pollution Control Director here at Canton City Public Health for 12 years, and I will be discussing our EPA grant project. Canton City Public Health Air Pollution Control Division is the local air agency for Stark County as the contractual representative of Ohio EPA for air matters. So what that means is we implement the Clean Air Act per the state and federal regulations by performing air quality monitoring, permitting, inspections, and enforcement. So very similar to Cleveland's presentation, we are the same type of organization. Currently, we operate 3 ozone, 2 particulate, and 2 lead and metals sites for the collection of air quality data. We perform all the quality assurance activities so that we can ensure quality data is collected. And all the data is reported to the Ohio EPA and US EPA and made available online. This is a map of Stark County that shows our air monitoring sites with a close-up of the sites located in Canton, Ohio. So that's all the sites that we currently are operating. When we heard about the EPA grant opportunity for enhanced air monitoring, we thought we were a good fit since we already have experienced staff for air quality monitoring and grant reporting, and we had a neighborhood that could benefit from the extra air monitoring. The neighborhood near a steel manufacturing facility, Republic Steel, is a source of numerous complaints of odors and particulate or dust fallout onto their cars and houses. We investigated the complaints and conducted other inspections and have pursued enforcement action for the violations discovered. Here are just a few photos of the various visible emission violations from Republic Steel that we have discovered, and that's among various other violations. We also have a picture here of a car from the neighborhood with the particulate fallout on it that occurred overnight. We have held 6 public meetings with the community over the years from 2017 through 2022, so we can listen to the community's concerns and take action. A lot of the residents have lived in the neighborhood for decades and remember the good and bad times living near Republic Steel. The community sees the particulate on their properties and smells the odors and wants to know how that affects the air quality in their neighborhood and their health. Even though we collect lead and metals air quality data, that occurs only 15 days per month. So we are not always monitoring during the conditions that cause complaints. If we had data of other pollutants like particulate, we would be able to provide air quality data that can be correlated to particulate fallout events. So here's an aerial photo of the steel manufacturer, Republic Steel, with their sources of lead highlighted in yellow. The red marks the spots of the current locations of the lead and metals air quality monitoring sites. You can see the neighborhood to the southwest of the facility, which is the community for the project, which includes an elementary school, which is marked in blue. And this is the closest neighborhood to the sources of air pollution at Republic Steel. Not only is this a neighborhood of complaints, but it is also a neighborhood that is in the 95 to 100 percentile for low life expectancy, heart disease, and asthma. So our project will expand the air quality monitoring at the existing lead and metals site nearest to the neighborhood, named the Republic Community Site, to monitor the additional pollutants. The site is the red triangle on the map there, just so that you could see which one we're talking about. And then this is a picture of the site itself. The fenced-in area is where it contains our air quality monitors. And you can see the site's proximity to homes in the neighborhood and Republic Steel in the background. The Republic Community site's fenced-in area will be expanded so we could add a mobile shelter as pictured to hold the additional monitoring equipment since it is sensitive to weather and temperature. The mobile shelter option provides the ability to move the equipment to other neighborhoods in the future to conduct similar projects when this project is concluded. The mobile shelter will hold federal equivalent method or FEM equipment to measure continuous particulate, both PM 2.5 and PM 10 sizes, continuous sulfur dioxide, and once every 6 days, volatile organic compound or VOC canister sampling. The continuous data provides minute or hourly pollutant data to correlate to activities occurring at Republic Steel and when particulate fallout or odor complaint conditions occur. FEM equipment is federally approved for accurately measuring these pollutants for the determination of air quality. And the Canton APC staff will be the ones to operate this equipment. The community has asked for air quality monitoring in their neighborhood or at their houses, which is difficult with FEM air monitoring equipment. So we have decided to get low-cost sensors to be placed at neighborhood properties to measure air quality information. These sensors will be in the hands of community members, called community operators, to actively participate in the collection of air quality data. We plan to have 4 purple air sensors to measure continuous particulate and 4 multi-rays to operate once every 6 days to be placed in the neighborhood. The multi-rays will also be able to be operated when the community member detects odor or sees visible emissions, so data is collected during the events that they are most concerned about. Sensors do not use federally approved methods for measuring the pollutant, so the reliability of the data is questionable. The data from the sensors will be compared to the FEM data to provide context and reliability of the sensor data. All air quality assurance and maintenance for the sensors will be completed by Canton APC staff. The project will start with a kickoff meeting with the community. The community is already aware that we have been awarded this grant and are excited to get started, but we are still waiting for the notice of award from US EPA, so we have yet to start. Though the project was designed with the input from the community gathered over the years, the community will provide direct input on who will be the 4 community operators to operate the air quality sensors, what locations the sensors will be placed, the frequency of data collection and reporting, and the location for accessing the air quality data. Those community operators will be trained by Canton APC staff on how to operate the sensors and collect and upload the data. The air quality data from the sensors and FEM equipment will be posted to a publicly available website at least weekly. We will meet quarterly with the community to discuss the air quality data, what it means for them and their health, and any changes needed to the project, like new locations for the sensors. This will build a relationship of partnership and trust with the community. The data will be collected for 2 years and then next steps determined. So at the end of the 2 years, we will have identified the air pollution that occurs during these times of complaint conditions. We will evaluate the data regularly to determine if there is a need for improvement. If so, we will take appropriate action to mitigate the sources of pollutants. The data will determine if FEM air monitoring at this location is continued beyond the 2 years. If the data supports discontinuing the FEM air monitoring, air quality data will continue to be gathered by the neighborhood since the sensors will be left with the neighborhood for the community to use at their will. The FEM equipment will be available to move to other neighborhoods that are in need in Stark County. So that's our project, and thank you for listening.
Mary, thank you so much for that. Well, I want to take just a moment to thank all of our speakers for sharing the information about their projects with us today. We've got, 4 very different areas, 4 different approaches, but just some really incredible work going on across the state of Ohio. And we're really glad that all of you came to share this with us today. We do have some questions in the chat, and we'll go ahead and start with those. We have one for Brandy. And Brandy, the question is, what actions are taken to validate the purple sensors before they're administered into the communities?
Yes, thank you for your question. Yeah, that is part of our process. I will say that we've learned a lot along the way here, and we did receive a lot of technical assistance in developing this process from the Thriving Earth Exchange. They provided us with a technical assistance grant a couple of years ago to get this work off of the ground. But what we did was place our purple air sensors at an Ohio EPA regulatory monitoring site, or an FEM monitor. And then we kept it there for at least 2 weeks, collecting 2 weeks worth of data to make a direct comparison with the EPA's regulatory monitor, just to check and see, you know, how accurate it was measuring. And they also analyzed that data to look for any anomalies. And then through that process, we were able to then place that sensor out in the community, knowing that it's very consistent with the data that we're collecting from the federal monitors. So that's the process that we used. So hopefully that helps. And sounds like there's others that have more technical expertise in this area that might be able to weigh in on that process too.
Do others have anything to add?
I would say it's definitely recommended to ensure that you have some confidence in your equipment and that you have that validity with your data collection. So.
All right, we will move on to our next question then. Jada, this one is for you. How long can the clip-on air monitors hold a charge? Do the wearers put them on for a full day or at a certain time?
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. The AirBeam, the clip-on monitor, it holds a charge for about 17 hours. So what we'll do is we'll have the residents who are using them, we'll get it connected for them, and it'll have a full charge when the resident is given the monitor, and they'll wear it for a full day. And if they were to like leave their neighborhood, so say in Lower Price Hill, a resident were to go to Rose Lawn for work or something like that, then they'll carry it with them so that we can see how the air quality differs in the two neighborhoods. And then when they get home, what they'll do is they will turn it off for the day and charge it. And then for their next day, they'll start a new session and turn the monitor back on. So each day is a different session, and they're charging the monitor every time they go to bed at night.
That is great. Thank you. All right, we have another question has come in. It looks like this is open to anyone who would like to answer. Is what air quality monitoring is occurring in areas of high fracking wells? You don't know if high fracking wells are anywhere near what you all are doing, but
I can comment on it. Maybe others have more information. I know through the same network, through the Thriving Earth Exchange, they're also working with folks in Belmont County, and they're specifically looking at baseline air monitoring around fracking areas. So there's more information online, and I'm happy to post a link.
great. There's also information online through an organization. It's Frac Tracker. If you're not familiar with that, they have some great information on there that shows visually on a map where some of the wells are emitting the highest levels of methane. There's just a wealth of information on the site as well. Oh, and thanks, Brandy, for putting that in the chat. Well, I have a quick question for you. For those who are working with community members, I know you touched on it a little bit, but we'll go back. Is this the first time that you and or your organization have worked directly with members of the community to do data collection? And do you have any concerns or anything that particularly excites you about having the community members so involved in the collection process?
I'm happy to just share a little bit about that. Most of the work that we've done with community members for data collection at this point has been through schools. So what we will do is we will work with high schools, middle schools that are looking at collecting data and developing a project-based learning experience. We will provide a purple air sensor or other air sensors that we have, and really just try to work with students to identify what is their concern, develop a hypothesis, and develop a research project, and then collect the data and then analyze the data after they have done that. And we approach it from a citizen science perspective, that the techniques that we're teaching can be applied to any citizen science project, not just air quality. In terms of what we're doing in the future, we have had a lot of community involvement, and this is through going to public health meetings, this is attending events, this is, residents contacting us. And we also had a different deployment project where we deployed 30 air quality sensors, not purple air, a different kind, through the library systems throughout Cuyahoga County. And we have a project partner that we work with very closely on that, who works directly with the community members. So, but this will be the first time for us in terms of the approach that we're taking for community members to establish a resident advisory committee. So I'm really excited about that, to actually make sure that throughout this entire project period, the decisions that we're making are being informed and that we have that community input from those residents directly about how we are delivering the project. So I'm excited to see that.
What others? Yeah, Jacob.
Oh, sorry, thank you. We're also excited to be working with residents because our Climate Safe Neighborhoods program is in different Cincinnati neighborhoods. So each neighborhood that we've worked with so far who hasn't had the chance to do air quality is being able to have their own air quality program. They'll have stationary monitors up and residents get to participate. They'll be paid for participating. And it's kind of like coming full circle, because in their resilience plans, they ask for more street trees, or they talk about improving the air quality within their neighborhoods. So with having residents be able to be paid and participating in the programs themselves, it's really great because they get to see how it will hopefully change policy, because we're creating these dashboards and we're sharing it with the city of Cincinnati in hopes that it'll get written into the Green Cincinnati plan.
For Canton, this is the first project that we've had where the community will help participate in gathering the data. And we're really excited because this community has been active and interested in air quality and their health. And we think that this will be a great partnership where they will have it in their hands and they'll have control. And they'll be able to, see the information themselves. And a lot of humans don't understand that the nose is sensitive to smells that are sometimes not even detectable by equipment. And I think that'll just help give them a little bit of sense of peace that sometimes even if I smell something bad, it's really not detectable or it's really not harming me. And I hope that's the majority of the data that we collect. But even if it's poor data, that we could then take that and have something that could be leveraged to make changes in that neighborhood.
And probably similar to folks on this webinar, we've had some community engagement starting off our work, going out to the different neighborhood area commissions so that we could engage different segments of the population. And we've engaged residents in citing some of the purple air monitors. So some people do host one in their home. A lot of those locations are with partner organizations as well, like libraries, which are a great partner. I think with this project, we'll be expanding that so much more with having so much more outreach and communications. Similarly, we're doing some kind of a dashboard so folks can see what's going on, and having that community advisory board in place is going to really expand the types of stakeholders and community members we can keep engaged throughout the process. And I think elevate understanding around air quality, making connections to health impacts, and making connections to what we can do at the community level and at the policy level to reduce pollution. So yeah, I think there's so much we can do to expand this with community engagement.
And Brandy, I think that brings up an excellent point about community interest and stakeholder engagement. For those of you, especially for those of you who've been doing this work for a little while, what kind of changes have you seen in the interest of community members and even elected officials? And, Jada, you're working on the ground with youth. Are you seeing that either a decline or improvement in air quality in your areas have motivated people to care more about the issue or to want to become more involved in the issue? Or do you feel like you need to be using some of this data to drive that interest and engagement?
I feel like for us at Groundwork, it's kind of both. Like, having the purple air monitors up and live right now is very, like, it was inspirational to have businesses involved, because each monitor that's currently up, we partnered with a business in Lower Price Hill, and they were very excited because, as I mentioned, Lower Price Hill is highly industrial. So they're like, yeah, anything we can do to help improve the air quality. And then even working with youth, like, a lot of them come in and they are looking for a job, but they don't really know too much about the environment. So learning about it is like really inspirational to watch, because they're boots on the ground and they're excited to be doing the work, and you kind of see this sense of ownership. So yeah, you definitely get to see how people's mindsets change once you like get into the project.
I know for my organization, we are, actively trying to transition to be more community engagement and putting the power in the people's hands, allowing them to make more decisions on, what services are provided to them, and help them direct how the organization is providing for them. And so this is just one step in that direction for us.
Yeah, go ahead, Brandy.
Sure. I think with this particular project, so we've seen some growing interest across the community, just from elevating air quality as a topic. I think what's really helped, and I'm going to give a shout out to Franklin County Public Health, because when you can connect those dots for people as to why it affects them or their children or their loved ones, I think that's really powerful. And looking at, there's a lot of people that have asthma, that have other health conditions. And, the most popular thing that I hear when I'm at different community events and we're talking about our air quality program is, oh yeah, I have asthma, or yeah, my kid has asthma, and they sign up so they can get air quality alerts when we issue them in the community. So I think it's just, it's a good platform to connect with people and to expand that work through our public health partners. But yeah, we do get a lot of interest in that program because it's so visible out in the community as well. So
I guess the only thing that I would add to all that is I think there's always been an interest there, but projects like these, they force us to get out into the community and ask these questions rather than waiting for the community members to come to us and say they have a problem. This forces us to get out into the community and say, hey, this is what we're seeing. Is this consistent with what you're experiencing? Are there things that we're missing? And so that's a really nice way for us to really understand what's going on in the community, because as important as the data is, what the individual is experiencing on an everyday basis really is the most impactful thing. And so by these types of projects, we can get out and ask these questions and start to form those relationships with community members and hear directly from them.
That's great. That's all very, very good to know. One very last question, because we are almost at the top of the hour, is Jane Harf from our partner at Green Energy Ohio has asked whether or not any of you have been in touch with any of the other of the 132 projects that were funded. Hopefully, we're going to start this conversation among the four of you today that will continue on moving forward. But has anyone spoken with those outside of Ohio?
There's been a few webinars that go into some of the grant expectations, but that's the extent of my communication outside of this conversation. So thank you.
Well, we certainly intend to keep this conversation going, and I want to thank the four of you again for giving us your time and your expertise today. Also want to thank the Ohio Public Health Association and Green Energy Ohio for co-hosting this with Moms Clean Air Force today. We hope all of you learned something and enjoyed yourself. We'll be doing a follow-up with the link. This session was recorded, so all of the information that you saw today will be available to you by watching the recording. All right, thank you all again so much, and have a great rest of your day.